The Wicked Weave, the Wicked Weave. I see you, Joy Reid. Don't you worry. Casey hasn't forgotten about you. I know it's been quite a while since we have talked about you, like dump divers in the WNBA. I'm sure Joy Reid has been experiencing feelings of jealousy, feelings of rage. I'm sure the paranoia is starting to set in, worrying that she is being forgotten about, worried that she has been completely overshadowed by a young white girl from Iowa who defies the decades-long tradition in the WNBA of being physically attracted to your teammates. But don't you worry, Joy. Don't you worry. KC will never forget you. I'm even trying to empathize with you. I understand your concern. We are halfway through the month of June and your ratings are in the pooper. There have been a handful of episodes of The Witching Hour on MSNBC that are approaching CNN territory. Joy Reid is at serious risk of failing to eclipse 1 million viewers in prime time. During the month of June, Joy Reid is averaging 1.1 million viewers. Now, compared to April, ratings are down 15%. They are down 10% compared to last year. To make matters worse, this double-digit decline, it is happening during an election year. Donald Trump, Orange Man bad! The Orange Man, he has been leading the news cycle the entire year. From 2016 to 2020, the Trumper, he was the biggest star in cable news. Non-stop coverage of the leader of the orange race, it propelled CNN to being the #1 network in primetime on cable. Joy Reid, she was drawing big ratings in primetime on MSNBC. Now here we are 4 years later, and the Trumper, he's just not having the same effect, the same impact. Doesn't make any sense, right? He's leading in most major polls, seems to be more popular than ever, especially amongst minority voters. So, how come Trump is not having the same impact for CNN and MSNBC? The nonstop coverage hasn't changed. The hosts haven't changed. Well, the hosts haven't changed on MSNBC. Over the last few years, CNN, they have featured a rotating panel of huge embarrassing failures in prime time, with each one failing more miserably than their predecessor, led by arguably the most beautiful huge embarrassing failure, Caitlin Collins. Katie Roo! Katie Roo! But the host, they have not changed in prime time on MSNBC. Joy Reid still rides her broom to the NBC studios. She still occupies the same parking space on the broom rack in the closet. She still has the hour in prime time that was given to her based on diversity and inclusion. The formula hasn't changed, but for some reason, the formula that worked in 2020 to draw ratings, it's not working today. I wonder why. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that the vast majority of people have realized the mainstream media is full of shit. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers. At this pace, we should reach that milestone sometime this week. I cannot tell you enough how much I appreciate your support. Friday night, though, Joy Reid had an interesting panel on her show to discuss the only topic that is allowed to be discussed on MSNBC, Donald Trump. They rarely talk about John Biden unless they're praising his ability to fall asleep on command. They ignore the disaster known as Cam Harris, our esteemed pretend vice president. If a Biden is actually discussed on MSNBC, it's usually pretend Dr. Jill. Breaking news, pretend Dr. Jill Biden was instrumental in putting the head back on the Barbie. Last I checked, Joy Reid was dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. She is one of the leaders in the fight against mythical racism. She's a big supporter of girl power, which is why I was incredibly confused Friday night looking at this panel. On a show dedicated to equity and inclusion, Joy Reid put together a panel of guests featuring no women. Now, in all fairness, One of these guests could be identifying as a woman, which means I have just committed the crime of misgendering. Or it is entirely possible that Joy Reid can't define a woman and she didn't have a biologist on set to confirm gender. Either way, on the surface, the show dedicated to equity failed to be equitable. This panel of unknown dudes joined Joy Reid to discuss Donald Trump returning to Capitol Hill last week. Well, KC, why was Trump visiting the Capitol? He hasn't been elected yet. You know, one thing about Trump, he doesn't waste time. He's extremely ambitious. I guess he decided to visit the Capitol a few months early to let everyone know how things would be running if he is elected in November. According to Mediaite, one of the unknowns on the panel, his name is Gene Delilah or Dean Dalla. I think he's the dean of students at Woke U, which automatically qualifies him to be a guest at MSNBC. The dean, he wants you to know he's real upset. I am so bitter! How dare this orange disgrace visit the nation's capital? This man has proven to be dangerous! I bet woke politicians were running for their lives! It's so scary, Joy! You know, initially when I watched this segment, I thought they were joking. I thought this was another failed attempt at comedy at MSNBC, but this was not a joke. The dean of students, he was serious. It is rare that I am shocked by something that I hear in the mainstream media, but I'm not going to lie to you. I was surprised at the comparisons and the adjectives that Dean Delilah chose to describe Donald Trump. Listen for yourself.
Apparently yesterday was Bring a Terrorist to Work Day, because that's the reality. You know what so angers me, Joy, is that January 6th was an act of domestic terrorism. That's what Christopher Wray, the FBI director, testified before the House and the Senate. They welcomed a terrorist to the Capitol yesterday. This would be like bringing bin Laden to ground zero 3.5 years after 9/11. This is who they are. It's not like we go like, this is not who we are. No, this is who they are. And today's GOP is how democracies die. It is a fascist movement that's anti-democratic, that will use violence to acquire power and retain power.
I keep telling you, fear is their only option. This dude just compared the Trumper to bin Laden. Just think about that. He equated Trump returning to the Capitol with bin Laden visiting Ground Zero. And the thing is, there wasn't a single person on that panel that objected to it. There wasn't a single person on the panel that spoke up against this outright stupidity. Is it any wonder why people have abandoned the mainstream media? All week, the media, they have tried to convince us to be afraid of Donald Trump. Rachel Maddow and the donut diva Brian Stelter pushed the false narrative that Trump will put the media into camps. Alyssa the Farrah Griffin, the pretending Yenta from The View, she basically insinuated that Trump was running the federal government like John Gotti ran the mafia, where anyone who causes a problem gets whacked. Now, of course, the great pretender, she didn't provide any examples of this because they never have any examples. These people in the media, they speak and they expect us to believe it. And now we have some doofus at MSNBC equating Trump with bin Laden. You know what this tells me? It tells me they're getting desperate. You know what happens next week? The debate on CNN between the Orange Man and the aging fossil. Well, KC, Wolf Blitzer? Woof, woof, woof. I didn't know Wolf Blitzer was debating Trump. No. Not that aging fossil. I'm talking about our fearless leader, Johnny B. Biden. The mainstream media knows this debate could be disastrous. When you think about it, Trump is kind of in a win-win situation here. If CNN is heavily biased, if they keep muting the Trumper while refusing to mute John Biden, Trump could be viewed as a sympathetic victim. If CNN is not biased, which is highly unlikely and maybe even impossible, but if they're not biased and they allow Trump and Johnny B. Biden to actually debate, John Biden does not have a chance. John Biden has a hard enough time staying awake during the day. This debate with CNN, it's in prime time. If he is struggling to stay awake during the day, how in the hell is John Biden going to make it all the way to 8 o'clock to debate the Trumper? Like I said, fear is their only choice. You heard in the clip, Captain Doofus. He's claiming that the modern GOP is how democracies fall. Again, he doesn't provide examples, you're just supposed to believe it. He ends the segment by saying, "Who knows what's coming between now and November? Who knows what they have in store for us? Bend down the hatches, it's going to be dangerous." Are you scared? Are you afraid? Normally, fear can be an excellent motivator. Under normal circumstances, fear can sometimes be used to sway people in your direction. But there's just two problems for John Biden and the media, two small problems. Number one, these are not normal circumstances. People are angry. They are tired of working 2 jobs and still living paycheck to paycheck. There are families with mom and dad working 2 jobs each, and they still can't afford to live. Consumer debt, all-time high. People are literally putting their household bills on credit cards because they can't afford to pay them. There is no amount of fear that is going to supersede that anger. Problem number 2. And this is a major problem going forward for networks like CNN and MSNBC. The mainstream media has no credibility. Normal people no longer trust the media. Last I checked, I believe it was 7, maybe 8% of the country fully trusted the mainstream media. Whether you agreed with his policies or not, there's one thing you can't take away from Donald Trump. Honestly, this might be one of his greatest accomplishments. Over the last 8 years, Donald Trump, he has completely exposed the mainstream media. Last summer, well, maybe it was 2 summers ago, either way, there were rumors that MSNBC was thinking about parting ways with Joy Reid. She had set record low ratings. Her show wasn't nearly as popular as it was when she debuted in the summer of 2020. But to her credit, Joy Reid was able to recover. Going to be interesting to see if she can recover from this most recent decline. Her ratings in the key demos suck. May 26th, she drew 17,000 viewers in the 25 to 54 demo. This month, she's only averaging 67,000 in the 18 to 49 demo. Have you noticed we rarely hear about Joy Reid in the mainstream anymore? Have you noticed that? Maybe, just maybe, the shock factor has worn off. Maybe people are tired of hearing about racism. But give me your thoughts on this. Some doofus on MSNBC compares Trump to bin Laden. Joy Reid's ratings crashed to their lowest point of the year. Is Joy Reid losing steam? Are people tired of hearing about race? Now, she was able to bounce back a year or 2 ago, but will Joy Reid be able to rebound this time? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.